person sitting across from me, or sitting next to me, I guess, posted on his Facebook page in 2016 a tribute to someone who he said was his mentor. That was Rabbi Menachem Schneerson. He said he was his mentor and his friend. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Rabbi Schneerson, there were some Jews who believed that he was and is the Messiah. So rejecting Christ, but believing that that rabbi was his Messiah. You have Rabbi Shmuley who believes that that's his mentor. They believed that he was the Messiah. What is it? It becomes important to understand, what did Rabbi Schneerson preach? Well, he preached Jewish supremacism, the hatred of all non-Jews. And you don't have to take my word for it, because if I said it, they would say that's anti-Semitism. You should instead take the word of the two Jewish professors who translated his work. Those authors' names were Israel Shahak and Norton Mezvinsky, and their book was entitled Jewish Fundamentalism in Israel. From that book, we learned that Shmuley's mentor, Schneerson, describes the difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. The body of a Jewish person is of totally different quality from the body of all nations of the world. And he talks about the substance of the Jewish body versus the substance of non-Jews, saying that the inner quality, quote, is so different and so great that the body should be considered completely different species. So that is a belief. And you can go through his speeches and you will see that he continually talks about how non-Jews should be treated, and that, again, we are a different species. This is what Rabbi Shmuley believes in. We have to come to terms with the fact that there are Jewish radicals, and it's incumbent upon the Jewish community to call them out. Prior to October 7th, I don't think many people were engaged with what is happening in Israel. You know, we kind of all said the same thing. Israel is our friend and ally. I count myself among those people. Post October 7th, the world, and especially I would say Zionists in media, were demanding that we all pay attention. And when we began to pay attention, we didn't like what we saw. You cannot tell me to ever feel comfortable with 18,000 children being ruthlessly murdered. You can't get me to feel comfortable as a Christian with the amount of more explosives dropped, tons of explosives dropped on Gaza than were dropped in Hiroshima.
Candace Owens just said that Israel dropped more bombs on Gaza than on Hiroshima. Hiroshima was an atomic bomb, Candace. You know, why don't you just read Wikipedia? Israel has nuclear weapons. They've never used them, so I have no idea what you're talking about. But let's remember, Pierce, your parents are part of the greatest generation. Winston Churchill was told by the Americans, don't bomb German cities, Hamburg, Dresden, etc., at night. You can't see what you're bombing. Do what we Americans have, which is precision daytime bombing. And Churchill said, no, my pilots are more important. We need the RAF.
All right.
And he flattened German cities. And he is considered today the greatest British statesman of the 20th century.
By the way, the flattening of cities like Dresden was widely condemned at the time, including by many people in Britain, and led to the establishment of the Geneva Convention.
Dresden was Dresden was the last month of the war, but before that, Hamburg and everything else was not condemned.
It led to the establishment of the Geneva Convention after World War II, specifically to stop that kind of thing happening again. So I'm glad you raised that example. Candace, you've got over 3 minutes.
So do you condemn Winston Churchill as a war criminal for Dresden?
No, absolutely not. No.
Why not? You just said that it was wrong.
I was
Winston Churchill as a war criminal for Dresden?
Well,
please, you said not, but why?
If you're both going to ask me the same question, let me be clear. Winston Churchill was not a war criminal, right? But some of the ways that
Why not? He bombed Dresden and killed 25,000 people.
Yeah, he also saved the world from Adolf Hitler and the Nazis.
Oh, he saved the world. So Israel's saving the Middle East from Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Iran.
But it's not, though.
Hezbollah.
Israel's not doing that.
Thank you for answering my question. Well, case closed.
Dresden was considered a Holocaust. It was, in fact, a war crime. And there should be debates about what happened in Dresden. It was absolutely horrific that a bunch of Christians were skipping off, on the eve of Ash Wednesday. And then they were quite literally reduced to ashes. It is wrong. And the fact that you are having to reference a war crime to justify what's happening in Gaza is not a point for you. It's completely awful. When people say, oh, well, look at what we did. Look at all these other horrific things we did. Why do you care about this horrible thing that's happening? I don't even understand that logic. It's completely ridiculous. Look, there is no person in good conscience who should be comfortable with the amount of death that's happening in Gaza. And yes, if you are going to correlate it to Dresden, that would be a fair comparison, except much more has been dropped on Gaza than was dropped in Dresden. So is it fair to call what's happening in Gaza a Holocaust?
Candace just said that Israel dropped more bombs on Gaza than on Dresden. What's your source for that?
You wanted the source from Candace.
I never got.
You
I
wanted
never,
the.
I
Hang
never
on.
got between.
Rabbi Shmuley, you wanted the source from Candace. I think she's.
You will
I
not
think
let
she
me
has
speak.
one. Well, why don't you let her answer? I think she has one.
Let me fact check this source as well. So 70,000
Yes, I want to see where Israel
Let her
dropped more
answer,
bombs
please.
on Gaza than Dresden. Go
70,000
ahead.
tons of explosive have been dropped on the Gaza Strip. Let's see
And
how many
Dresden?
tons of explosives were dropped on Dresden. 1 second. So 2,700 tons of bombs were dropped on Dresden in an 800 bomber air raid. And that is according to Britannica, the encyclopedia.
And what
as
was
a
the
source.
tonnage of bombs dropped in Gaza?
In Gaza, it was 70,000 tons of explosives were dropped in the Gaza Strip, and I got that from CNN.
Through the duration of the war to date?
Okay.
Is that the timescale?
Yes.
Okay. So Rabbi Shmuley,
which
that would
they're
seem to
saying
be
has surpassed
So let's be clear. Let's be
Dresden,
clear. So over
Hamburg, and
11
London during
months,
World
she's
War II.
comparing.
Hang on. What she said, to be clear, was that the Israeli.
It's also in the New York Times.
The Israeli Defense Force had dropped more bombs on Gaza than were dropped on Dresden. That is true. Do you accept that, Rabbi Shmuley?
You know, Pierce. I find this an astonishing debate.
You ask.
Wait. First of all, first of all, I don't. Wait. What do you mean it's true? Because she said it's true?
No. Do you accept
Do you
that's
have fact
true?
checkers?
The New York Times says it's true.
Is this a serious show? Wait.